What is this forgotten perspective? Well, it's not 1, 2, 3, or any point perspective. It's not interior perspective. It's not foreshortening or atmospheric or distance perspective. The forgotten perspective is my term for slight perspective. Less obvious perspective because it almost isn't there. And this side of an old church in country New South Wales is a good example of what I'm talking about, because it has a number of elements of perspective that aren't as obvious, that aren't very strong, and are often either not observed, or we can be tempted to simplify what we draw and not put them in. Let me highlight what I'm talking about. So we're almost looking straight on, but our straight on, it's not in the center, and we can work out exactly where our straight on point if we look at these lines on the roof, where we have a line that goes straight down. This lines up with where I was standing facing the building. It's not in the center of the photo because some of the photo has been cropped. Now that means that we're looking at this buttress pretty much straight on, and so we don't see the sides, we just see this facing edge. But when we move to each side, we're not looking straight on. We start to look at an angle. And so now we can see something of the left-hand side, but nothing of the right-hand side. And the right-hand side, in fact, starts to hide what we can see here. So this starts to look a little bit narrower in terms of what we can see than where we are looking almost straight on to the buttress. And when we move across to the third buttress over here, it's the same, except this is wider than this because the angle that we're viewing it from continues to increase, and we can see more of the width. Now, this also affects what's happening with the windows. This window, we are seeing more straight on than this window, because this window is further away from our center line. So we can see slightly more of the thickness on this side. And that means that as the windows move further along, we continue to see more of the wall thickness. When we move the other direction, it works the same way, except the depth that we see is on the other side. But we see more of the depth on this window than this one. This buttress is a different category altogether because it's actually coming out at 45 degrees to this corner, whereas this one is coming out as an extension of the back wall. So this one is not joining in with this pattern. The other important place where we see perspective that's perhaps more subtle than what we're used to looking to find and draw is on this roof. It's easy to think that these lines, these slopes, are going to be the same angle, and they would be if our center line was down here. But because we're over on one side, on the side that's closest to the center line, the angle is going to be less angled, that's further away. We can see that the angles increase more as they go towards the right-hand side than the left-hand side. These horizontal lines becomes closer and closer together the further away they go from us. This downpipe we have at each end, the angle here is a shallower angle than the angle here for the same reason that these angles are different. Well, I've drawn it twice. I've drawn it, and I'll show you this one first, where I take into account everything we can see to try and capture as much of a sense of realism as I can. And then I redraw it where I'm not so fussed with this exactness. and then we'll quickly just compare them side by side. Make sure you at least catch that comparison at the end. But let's start the drawing now. I'm using a 0.2 Copic multi-liner. I start with these center windows because they are the center of the building, but I'm very aware that the right-hand window, the right-hand side of the right-hand window has slightly more depth than the left-hand side. Now this drawing took me 40 minutes to do in real time, and you're watching it at 4 times the actual drawing speed. I do the 2 center lancet windows, and then I establish where the lower line of the guttering is going to be. And now I'm positioning where the left-hand buttress comes out, doing that one first because it's the simplest one, and I'll use it to get the measurements for where it changes direction, where it angles out towards us more. The buttress steps out twice. These can be annoying when we draw these sorts of neoclassical buildings. Now I'm going to do the other one, but I'm aware that I can't just now draw the second line, but I need to do the depth that we can see here. I don't want to exaggerate it, but I don't want to minimize it either. So it takes a little more care to do, but I can measure the horizontal parts where the buttress steps out using the one I've already drawn. So now I'm working on the second pair of lancet windows. It might look a little bit wider, but we're seeing more of the depth on the left-hand side, and we actually are seeing, although I probably haven't really captured it here as well as I could have, slightly less of the glass, because just as we see more on the left-hand side, we see less of the right-hand side of each of these windows. And now I do this downpipe, and I do the end of the building. And I do end up having one significant problem with this drawing, and that's that I take the base down too much. But now I do the right-hand pair of lancet windows, and you can see that we can see more of the depth there. I've slightly exaggerated it here, I think, because I really wanted to make clear what I was doing. Now with this right-hand buttress, we can see more of the depth of this. The horizontal markers are the same. We want them to, as best we can, line up across the whole side facade of the building, but we can see more of that depth. So now I'm going to do this one that doesn't fit the same pattern, and therefore I just do my best to observe the proportions of this to the rest of this drawing and do my best to keep the scale consistent. So I've gone down too far with that ground line. The ground line should be a couple of millimeters higher up. So now I establish the gutter, and now you can see what I'm doing. I look at where the points of the roof line are, and I align it with what's happening with the windows underneath, and that helps me position those points correctly. And then I work out how high that is. And what I look at is the vertical distance from the top of the gutter to the roof line. I don't follow the diagonal lines. So I'm just finishing aligning these points in the buttresses where the buttress drops down before it comes out again. I want to put some indications of the stonework. I don't particularly do this in the second drawing I do, but for this one I did want to give a sense of the old sandstone work, because visually it is it is a fairly significant part of what we see, of the way this building feels almost when we look at it. But I don't want to do too much, and I don't want to do it with marks that are as heavy or as clear as some of the more structural ones, because I don't want this to be this solid grid of lines where in the end we see the grid of the stonework more than we actually can see the building. As an example of capturing the effect of the stonework rather than trying to draw it exactly. So now I'm doing some horizontal lines to represent the rows of tiling, but I don't want to make them too precise, because I don't want that degree of detail. If I leave it blank, it's going to look odd because it's not a smooth surface. But again, I don't want this massive grid on my roof that pulls more attention than it does in the reference. I want it to sit with the same visual emphasis. Now you can see I do a few lines across the width to give me a sense of the angle I need to be at that point. And now I start filling them in. I don't take them all the way up to the top, because if I do, they'll start to join up and we'll get a very heavy, if you like, hatched value up the top. And again, that's not the effect that we have in life. So I don't want to create that effect. And now I just do a few little dots and dashes in the very bottom few rows, just to help give a sense of the shadows that are being created. And now I put the ground line in. If I wanted to go back and rework this, I could probably put more shadow at the base and use up some of that additional wall length I've added to it. And now just a little bit of blocking out of some shrubs and the mountains in the distance, just to frame this a little bit more. Now I just think I'll add some of this shadow and try and give a sense of the slope of the ground. Again, I'm wanting to add a little bit of interest and a little bit of context. I need to be aware of foreshortening with the ground, but it does work a little bit differently here because the ground isn't flat. And there we have it. Now, the other one. So now I start the second drawing, which is where we simplify this and we draw as if we're looking straight onto all of the elements going down the side, and as if we're looking at the roof more straight on than we really are as well. So I do my lancet windows. I'm not worried about depth lines at all around the glass for the thickness of the walls. I'm doing these buttresses as if I'm looking straight at them both. Really, it's the distance we are from the wall which sometimes determines which buttresses are going to look straight on, whether it's just one or whether it's several. And I do the same thing with the lancet pairs on each side. I draw them all as if we're looking straight on. I do the gutter in, and annoyingly, I do much straighter, cleaner lines on the what not to do drawing than I did on the other one. Now with the roof, I treat the roof as if we're looking pretty much straight on. I do the angles the same. In fact, I actually slope the left-hand one more than the right-hand one. But again, this is where careful observation needs to come in. It's so easy to presume what I'm seeing rather than to look for the differences. And I do what I often see, which are the vertical lines being vertical all the way along, not actually ending up parallel to the ends. So what do you think? Well, let's compare the two side by side and just see how they work. I suppose the question is, which one has the stronger sense of reality? Now, I'm not talking about the fact that I've added more detail for the stonework on this one, but in terms of the actual fundamental structure, does it work more realistically here? The fact that we can sense that there is a movement in the perspective as we move left and right of our center line, that the movement in the increasing of the depth of the buttress looks real in a way that this looks a bit simplistic. And does the line work trying to capture the effect of the tiling work better when we allow for the perspective angles than when we simplify them and make everything more the same? I certainly feel that even if we take away the stonework lines, that this has a far stronger sense of being a real object than this. This does have more of a sense of a cartoon-like effect, not because there's less detail, but because of the oversimplification of what is a more complex view. And so often our drawing problems are actually observation problems. Sometimes it's because we're keen to oversimplify something to make our drawing easier. I think a better path is to draw subjects that are more appropriate to our ability to draw them accurately. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope this has been helpful. I think this is tremendously important because I so often see drawings where I think there's been a shortcut taken or simply things not seen, detail about the perspective not observed clearly enough, that ends up in things that do look less real than we might like. So I hope this has been helpful. And of course, you'll find this reference photo on my channel community page if you'd like to have a go at observing the subtlety of perspective at times. But in the end, whatever you draw, however you draw it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.